Here we have verse 22 of the 13th chapter, the Gospel of John. We are in the midst of a situation in which Jesus, having washed the disciples' feet, is now indicating that they have all been cleansed, but he accepts from the group one of them, who is Judas, and indicates that Judas, in fact, although he doesn't mention him by name, at this point we can assume the disciples didn't know who Jesus was speaking of. Nevertheless, he indicates he was going to betray him. One of these was going to betray Jesus, and we have the perplexity of the disciples in hearing that information reflected for us now in this verse. So we have eblepon. This is from blepo, I see. This is the third person plural imperfect active indicative, so they were seeing. And the idea here would be they were looking at each other. This is in imperfect, so it suggests an ongoing action. You can kind of imagine they were all looking at each other back and forth. Eis alelus, this is the reflexive pronoun, usually rendered one another. Using the preposition eis here, into, literally, so into with the accusative, plural. They were looking into each other, really, is the force of it. You can imagine gazing at one another, looking back and forth, trying to figure out what in the world this means and who it could be that would do this. The subject of the verb is hoi mathetai, the disciples. So the disciples were looking into each other. Aporu menoi. This is from peruomai. It means I go. It's the deponent verb. In this case, it's a participle. It's the present middle in form participle, masculine plural nominative. So the disciples were looking at each other. You notice the here negates peruomai. So idiomatically, it's the idea that they would go, but they couldn't. They were being withheld from going, kind of caught, in a situation of not knowing which way to go, this way or that way, sort of in this state of rather paralyzed panic almost, I suppose, is suggested by the word. So the disciples were looking at each other in a state of doubt, in a state of perplexity. Peri, preposition, takes the genitive here, meaning concerning. This is the interrogative pronoun. Tenos, who, would be the idea. He says, lege, from lego, I say, third person singular present active indicative, concerning who he was speaking of or who he was talking about. They're all in a state of some complete quandary as to what in the world can be the meaning of this that has been now voiced by Jesus.